What's up? I hope you guys are having a great day. I wanted to come to you with a little bit more of a raw video, something that I have been asked a shit ton across the timeline of this channel. I'm going to go into my favorite non-metal artists, the people that I frequent the most, the bands, the artists, whatever it may be. And I also wanted to sort of expand this a little bit to where this isn't going to include rock and it's not going to include punk, because I think those are two things that could be their own video and constitute their own videos, because there are plenty of artists that I like that are not rock, metal, or punk, and I have a pretty fucking big list, period. So I wanted to go over them with you pretty raw. I'm not really going to edit this video. I'm going to be looking at my list because I have a big list and I don't want to forget anybody. And obviously I want to know what your guys' favorite non-metal, rock, or punk artists are down in the comment section below. Maybe we share some of our favorite artists, and I highly recommend checking any of these people out because for one reason or another they've left an imprint on me and I love their music a lot. So let's get into this, and if you enjoy this video, drop a like. My mouth is gonna hurt after this one. Starting off with Ethel Cain, I fucking adore her music. I think that she is a phenomenal songwriter and lyricist and touches on so many things that more people should pay attention to. I look up to her a lot, I relate to her a lot, and I think that a lot of the way that we view shit, just based on how she filters through her music, is something I relate to a lot. Brakence, one of my favorite artists, period. I binge his music religiously pretty much. I am a massive advocate for him. I think that it's so clear already the influence he has had on hyperpop with just how many artists are already trying to copycat him. Denzel Curry is one of my favorite hip-hop artists, period. I think the way he approaches hip-hop music is really aggressive but also very thoughtful at points. I like the rawness of it. Lizzie McAlpine, similarly for rawness, I just love her lyricism. I think she makes music that is very pretty, very poignant, very thoughtful, and it's just sort of that like looking out of a window at 3 a.m. and it's raining sort of vibe music. JPEG Mafia is one of the weirdest and coolest hip-hop artists, if you can even call him that, because he really does embody a lot of different things, and it's been awesome throughout the years to see him gain the sort of recognition that he deserves as a sort of outcast of the hip-hop sphere, and I appreciate seeing like just a weirdo get to the point that he is at. Tracy Chapman, one of probably my longest favorite artists. I will always swear by her music. She has some of my favorite front-to-back albums of any solo artist. I think that for folk music and just sort of that tradition, she is not only one of the most beautiful vocalists and one of the most unique voices, but some of her songwriting is just so gorgeously put together, so intricate, and it shows that you can have the bare minimum and minimalistic instrumentation and still make music that is timeless, and it's made me so happy to see the resurgence with like Fast Car and stuff. Girl in Red, yes, I listened to Girl in Red. I don't want to explain myself any fucking further. If you know, you know. Just, we'll leave it at that. Alec Benjamin, I am a whore for, like, poetic shit. I adore poeticism and lyricism. I love storytelling, and that's kind of why I love Alec Benjamin. I don't think he's necessarily one of, like, the most standout vocalists, and I think a lot of his songwriting is fairly rudimentary, but there is a level of catchiness to it, and there's also a level of storytelling to it that I have always really enjoyed. I actually really fuck with Joji. I don't like all of his music, but I remember when he made the transition from the Filthy Frank persona and Pink Guy and stuff like that, I just really fell in love with the way that he approaches this R&B lo-fi music and the tradition of lo-fi. I think he pierced into that niche perfectly. Dorian Electra, I think that they have kind of slowed down a little bit in how much I've loved them and really enjoyed their music, but there was a period of time where I was fucking obsessed with them. They're the type of artist that you either really enjoy or you really don't, and if they're not your cup of tea, you will know it very quickly, but I just think that their aesthetic, the way that they produce their music, I really do enjoy them. One of my favorite kind of hidden gem artists is XXSage XX. I think that she is a phenomenal, like, I don't even know what to call her, like, digital core hyperpop artist. She's kind of like Brakence. I will just loop her music endlessly. It is addictive, it is catchy, it gets in your head, it's earwormy. Rod Wave has one of my favorite hip-hop and R&B voices. I think that he has just period one of the best voices of the modern generation. He is so sultry and raspy and soulful, and the way that he filters that through his music is awesome. I resonate and relate a lot to the things that he sings about and the way that he talks about some of the struggles he had growing up, as well as just tackling important things about where he came from, his family, the struggles he had with that, mental health, I think is really awesome. And when you combine combine that with his beautiful voice, it really just does pop a lot. Connor Maynard is a catchy-ass pop artist. I loved him when he did cover music, and I've just gotten more into him. I just love songs like A Different Way and Storage, as well as Maybe I. These are all just great songs. Similarly to Alec Benjamin, I don't think that he is one of the most like unique songwriters, but I think what he lacks in sort of vocalization and songwriting, he makes up for in sheer catchiness. Moving on from there, Churches, probably my favorite like synth pop and synthwave band of the modern era. I love their electronics. Lauren Mayberry is a really sweet vocalist. I love repping them. They're one of my favorite Scottish bands, and I think that the way that they approach electronic music pays homage to sort of that OG 80s synth tradition, but in a really smart and cool way. Very catchy music. Eliza Grace has made some music that's really resonated deeply with me and kind of pierced me. I think the reason I love her so much is because of her lyricism and her storytelling. It is why it draws me to her, and I think that her production is very ethereal and pretty. Moving on from there, we got Porter Robinson, an electronic artist that has just binded Gen Z together. There are no artists, in my personal opinion, besides maybe like Anna Monoguchi, that have embodied this level of just luminescent etherealness in their music. Porter Robinson's approach to sound, to texture, to sound design is just second to none, and I have yet to hear another artist that can make me feel the remembrance and the somberness that Porter Robinson does. Moving on from there, I loved Juice WRLD. I still love Juice WRLD. I don't listen to him nearly as much as I used to, but there was a period in my life in like the late 2010s when I associated him really heavily with my best friend, and we kind of shared in him, and Juice WRLD is one of my favorite, if not my favorite artist to come out of sort of that like emo hip-hop SoundCloud rap sphere. I think that his voice was really distinct. I think that the way he approached things was really distinct, and I wasn't really that caught up in a lot of the music of that time period in that specific genre, but Juice WRLD always just left an imprint on me. One of my favorite ambient artists, Benoit Pielard. If you want some great ambient music to just disassociate to, check that out. I am a Lana Del Rey fan, hate me as you may. I will say I was not a fan of early Lana Del Rey, but like Chemtrails era Lana Del Rey, I fuck with heavily. Like Norman fucking Rockwell, I mess with that heavily. Like I really do love like the modern past 2 or 3 records from Lana. I think are amazingly well written, amazingly poignant, beautifully put together lyrically, and production wise is minimalistic and perfect. Another artist similar to Porter Robinson that gives you those feelings of nostalgia and that sort of just like looking back at the past. Nout makes some of the best ambient music and just minimalistic ambient music that just makes you reminisce of a time long gone. Zach Bryan is, I would say, my favorite modern country artist. I think that he really does maintain the tradition of early like outlaw country and outsider culture in country music and brings that back in a really good way, because I've not been a fan of the modern strain of country music that is just so centered around trap beats and making it pop and accessible and crossing over. He has shown that you don't necessarily need to sell out like a Morgan Wallen to be an incredible country artist. Fauzia, I love the way that she incorporates these sort of Middle Eastern sort of vocalizations in her timbre. I really love that. I've not really heard that from many other artists. I think that she has this level of sass to her vocals and to her lyrics. She is just so petty but also thoughtful and has this level of lonesomeness and sorrow in her music that I really fuck with. Clairo, if you want some good lo-fi bedroom pop music, she's one of those artists that I just turn on mindlessly sometimes, I would say. Kate Bush, one of my fucking favorite artists of the 1980s, and I think that a lot of people just judge her as like the running up that hill singer. She has so many good songs. She has great albums. She has a fucking great discography, and if you've been sleeping on her as just someone that had like a one-hit wonder sort of career, I beg of you not to. Kate Bush is one of the best vocalists of like the new wave and synth pop era of the 1980s. I love Kenny Hoopla. I actually found him through a Nothing Nowhere collaboration, Blood I believe it's called. I love his vocals. I think he has a great approach to sort of the emo indie tradition with hip hop and ambient and shoegaze mixed in. He really is a clusterfuck of a lot of different things, but he is just unhinged and so so manic, and I love that. I love Depeche Mode. Probably my favorite electronic project of all time. I loved Violator from a very young age. I think it is just about as perfect of like an electronic synth pop, like an 80s new wave record that you can get. One of the most distinct voices in the field. Fucking love them. 21 Savage, don't roast me. He's understated. He's monotone, but he has a certain style that just gets in my head. And when I want to listen to 21 Savage, I cannot help myself. He just sticks with me. I don't know what to say. Kind of like XXHXX, an underrated hidden gem, Dion Reverie. If you want some slow, simmering, subtle R&B and hip-hop music, some rock music, please, God, I implore you, check him out. He has such a good voice, and he's so underrated. Backwash is a fucking badass rapper. I adore her music. I adore the way that she approaches things. She has this unfiltered rage and aggression to so many topical issues that is just unrivaled in any field. Cannot emphasize that enough. Haylog's one of my favorite hyperpop artists. I just love his vocals. I haven't really heard many artists that sound like him because it seems like a lot of them try to kind of blend their vocals in together. He doesn't really filter his vocals through much processing, and he kind of just is what he is, and that's what I like about it. Utada Hikaru is one of my favorite Japanese artists. I love her music from the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack, and that's how I initially found her. Tracks like Simple and Clean and Sanctuary, but she has a really beautiful voice, very great songwriting, and a good discography once I dug into her from the Kingdom Hearts stuff. I Am Sleepless is a YouTuber artist. He used to go by Banana Pie Lord. He was like the soundtrack to your youth if you were a 2000s kid. I promise you, he made an outro or intro music for someone. You just don't fucking know it, and I just love his music. It's very nostalgic for me. Eric Doa is kind of this cool punk mixture of hyperpop and hip-hop, and I do think his vocals can sometimes come off a little over the top and campy, but I personally like it. Peach PRC, she wrote one of the songs that I relate to the most. It's called Heavy, and if you ever just want to know like how I feel about my life, Heavy pretty much sums it up. I think that it's really awesome to hear an artist that is speaking about borderline in such a severe way and portraying it in a way that seems more human than a lot of people allow it to be, because people love to stereotype people with borderline. I won't get into that though. Rico Nasty is one of my favorite rage artists. She is just hype, she is crunk, she is dumb, brain rot fun, and when I just want to rot my brain out and get hype, I will always go to a Rico Nasty track. Y'all might bully me for this, but I have fucked with NF from a very young age, and ever since I first discovered him, I really did mess with his music. I liked his messaging, and I don't care if he's corny or cringy or campy or an Eminem ripoff. I like his music. I think that he gets wrongfully doggy-piled on a lot of times because he doesn't fit in with a lot of stuff, and while he's not my favorite musician, there was a time in my life where he meant a lot to me, and I'm not ever going to forget about that. When it comes to hyperpop, you gotta throw 100 Gex in there. Love Laura Les and Dylan Brady. Laura Les is such like an inspiration in many ways for me. I think she's really funny, just a really cool person, and I love their approach to hyperpop and how they just do not care. They do not give a shit. They just are there to have fun and experiment, and I think that's how that sort of genre should be. Glenn Check is a Korean synth pop and electronic band. They sing in English only, if I remember correctly. Like, I don't think they've done a song in Korean, and they have that 80s style going full throttle. If you want some of that nostalgia in a new way, they kind of mix in a lot of ambient isms too, and like space in their compositions. If you want something really manic, Ethan Bortnick is someone that I would suggest. I just have not heard anyone utilize the piano in the way that he has. And if you want even more manic, Mother Mother. It is the equivalent of a bipolar breakdown, and I just feel like every single unhinged track that they make speaks to the unhinged people. And moving on from there, this is really funny because I accidentally put a Russian and Ukrainian artist beside each other, so I fucking apologize for that. Artem Pivovarov is the Ukrainian one. He is a great synth and electronic pop artist. I really love his music. And the Russian one is Yulia Shavisheva, who is a pop artist, another electronic artist. They play in sort of that area of Europe's electronic tradition. It has a very specific style, almost sort of Scandinavian inspired, but I think that they're very catchy and thoughtful. I like Lil Skelly, I'm not sure, I've never known how to pronounce it, but just a great emo hip-hop artist. He kind of is basic, but I've always fucked with his music a lot. My favorite solo artist of all time, it's been this way for pretty much years on end now, like going on a pretty much a decade. Nothing Nowhere. I will always stand by Nothing Nowhere, and even if he's not just like a hip-hop artist, I know he has emo and indie and rock and metal influences. I adore his music. There is no artist on this planet that means more to me. If I had a parasocial relationship with a artist, it would absolutely be Nothing Nowhere. Sebi is kind of brain rot. I just can't, bro. I get boner stuck in my head so much. He makes some of the stupidest music, or like a What Super Soaker. He just makes the dumbest music ever, and I love it. And as for ambient music, if you want something that will help you sleep or just unwind, The Endlessness of How to Disappear Completely, named after the Radiohead thing, I love this project. It really does help me a lot of times when either I'm going through like manic feelings or lows, or need help sleeping. I have always kind of leaned on How to Disappear Completely, and it's always helped me a lot. I could honestly keep going because there are a lot of artists I could shout out, but I'm gonna leave it at that. What are your favorite non-metal, rock, punk artists? You can let me know down in the comment section below, and do you like any of these? You can let me know. There is no wrong answer, no judgments, no guilty pleasures around here. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morrison. I'm signing off saying farewell.